The year was 1530, in the village of Kolomenskoye near Moscow. Bells rang to celebrate the birth of a son to Grand Prince Vasily III, a boy named Ivan. His father saw in him the future of Moscow, the heir to a growing Russian land. But fate was cruel. When Ivan was only 3, his father died, leaving him a crown far too heavy for such small shoulders. His mother, Elena, ruled in his place, fiercely protective, until she too died suddenly, poisoned when Ivan was just 8. The boy was left in the Kremlin, surrounded by wolves. Powerful boyar families fought over the throne, ignoring the child. Hungry, frightened, and humiliated, Ivan grew up watching nobles beat servants before his eyes, even seizing food from his own table. In silence, he stored his rage, his sense of betrayal, and a cold determination that one day he would rule them all and make them pay. In 1547, at just 16, Ivan was crowned Tsar of all Russia, the first ruler to claim that sacred title. He placed the heavy monomach's cap upon his head, not as a prince among princes, but as God's chosen emperor. And for a time, he ruled like the monarch he wished to be remembered as. He gathered wise advisors, reformed the laws, and created a standing army. He married the gentle Anastasia Romanovna, who soothed his violent temper and steadied his hand. He was not only a ruler, but a conqueror. In 1552, his armies stormed Kazan, the Tatar stronghold. The Volga River was his. The churches of Moscow rang out with victory, and Ivan was hailed as a hero. Soon Astrakhan fell as well, and Russia began to transform into an empire. But in 1560, tragedy struck. Anastasia, his beloved wife, suddenly sickened and died. Ivan was inconsolable and suspicious. He became convinced that the boyars, those same nobles who had tormented him in childhood, had poisoned her. From that moment, the man who had been reformer and conqueror began to transform into the figure history remembers as Ivan the Terrible. In 1565, Ivan unveiled a terrifying creation, the Oprutnina. He divided Russia in two, one part ruled by traditional laws, the other his personal domain, guarded by his black-cloaked, dog-headed riders, the oprichniki. They galloped through the land with brooms and severed dog-heads dangling from their saddles, symbols of how they would sniff out treason and sweep it away. Behind them, towns burned, nobles were dragged to dungeons, and entire families vanished. The bloodshed reached its height in Novgorod, 1570. Convinced the city planned to betray him, Ivan unleashed weeks of slaughter. Men, women, and children were drowned, tortured, and executed. Tens of thousands perished. The Volkhov River ran red. Meanwhile, Ivan turned west in the Livonian War, hoping to seize the Baltic coast. But his armies, exhausted by years of terror, were crushed by Sweden and Poland-Lithuania. The dream of a Baltic empire crumbled, leaving Russia drained and vulnerable. His mind grew darker still. He saw betrayal everywhere, in advisors, in boyars, even in his own family. One day in 1581, during a violent quarrel with his son and heir, Ivan Ivanovich, the Tsar struck him with his iron staff. The blow was fatal. The cries of the dying son shattered the palace. Ivan, horrified, cradled his bloodied heir, wailing that he had destroyed his own future. The painting that later immortalized this moment shows the madness in his eyes. By the early 1580s, Ivan was an old man, tormented by guilt, paranoia, and illness. He swung between long hours of prayer and sudden bursts of cruelty. Poisoned mercury treatments, perhaps for syphilis, left his body weak. On March 28, 1584, Ivan sat down to a game of chess. Before the match could begin, he collapsed. At 53 years old, the first Tsar of Russia, the boy who had grown among wolves, the conqueror of Kazan, the terror of Novgorod, the man who murdered his own son, was dead.